What's up, nerds? Welcome to another episode of The Bandwagon Fan. This is the show where we talk about all things pop culture and what we're into right now. I'm Josh.
I'm AJ.
And hey, we're back at it. Just went to the movies. And I'm one of those people who loves movie trailers. I don't know how you feel about them.
I like movie trailers, not as much as my wife. So I like movie trailers, but I will go find movie trailers like at home. I follow like a bunch of like trailer pages on YouTube.
Oh, wow.
So on my YouTube feed, I'll see trailers for movies. I go, oh, that's interesting, and then I'll watch it. You know what I mean?
Okay. See, yeah. I'm the opposite, where I'm like, the movie theater is like the prime spot for me to watch a movie trailer.
Okay.
It's just like a part of the process.
Okay.
But then also it's like, I don't know, like you get to see something like on a big screen rather than just on my phone. So yeah, I always enjoy that.
No, I agree. I think that's I think also sometimes there are realistically trailers that you see like at the theater that you just wouldn't see normally. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's also a part of it too.
Yeah. And like I'm one of those people where if I miss the trailers, like I'm gonna enjoy the experience a little bit less. So I'm that guy. I'm one of those weirdos. But
hey, I get it.
Went to the movies today, and two trailers really stuck out to me. The first one was The Blackening.
Yes, I cannot wait for that movie. Actually.
Dude,
it looks really funny. It looks really, really fun. I love the tagline, "We all can't die first." That's just marketing genius at its finest right there.
Yeah.
I love that.
And like, for those who don't know, it's about a group of Black people who go to this cabin in the woods, and then all of a sudden someone's trying to kill them. And so this movie it's a comedy, and it just plays in like all the like the horror movie tropes, specifically revolving around Black people. And like whoever wrote, I don't know who wrote it and directed, but whoever wrote it like is a genius, and I definitely want to go see it.
Me too. We should do it. We should do it for an episode because yeah, I think it's a funny premise. So I'm excited. Yeah, it's definitely it definitely has like shades of like Atlanta, like a Donald Glover sense of humor thing. If anyone's ever watched that show, so
I definitely I'm down to do that one. And then the other one that really stuck out to me was a movie called Sisu, and I had heard something about this before. I don't know where. But if you haven't seen the trailer yet, it's basically like an Inglourious Bastards, but it's about a Finnish man who, for whatever reason, he's just like the Finnish like action hero during World War II. And, you know, again, not all Germans were Nazis, but at the same time, it's kind of cathartic to see them get what they're owed in a way.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird because I'm like, this scene it has shades of things that I feel like we've seen before, but I think it's just being done in a very different way.
Okay. Yeah. Like it feels familiar, but it's also kind of a fresh take.
Yeah.
And something else that came up in the trailer was, then they didn't give a lot of play to it. There's a scene where you see like this line of women all carrying submachine guns.
I saw that.
So I was curious if like that's going to be like an actual part to the narrative, or if that was just like a one-off like scene that's going to happen.
Yeah, I hate doing this because I hate, if I'm right, then I feel like I would ruin the movie. But I feel like this is going to be something along the lines, because the character is old. Yeah. And so I feel like something's going to happen where he's going to be at the bare minimum incapacitated, and the town that he's fighting for is going to end up essentially taking up arms in his stead as a way to say, like, you've defended us all your life, let us do this. You know what I mean? That kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
So I hope I'm wrong, but I'll still watch it.
Okay. I was going to ask, are you going to watch it? Yeah. So you are. I'm going to see it. Listeners, if you're going to see it, let us know. Let us know if you want us to talk about it. We probably will.
I mean, yeah, I think we talked about this before, that like one of the things that about doing this podcast in the first place that I've really enjoyed is that it is, I mean, me and you, we used to go to the theaters all the time. Yeah. And so like, I don't know, at some point we just kind of stopped, I think because of like the Marvel litany of movies that was coming through, and it just kind of took the fun out of going to movies. But I don't know, man, this is a strong year for movies. This is a really strong year for movies.
Well, and then there was that little global incident. that
Yeah, we
kind
don't
of
talk
shut
about that.
down. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't talk about that. Yeah, we won't talk
uh,
about that.
and the other thing of note for this movie is it's produced by the same people who did the John Wick movies.
Yeah.
So that kind of gives you an inkling of what to expect. It's going to be like a high octane action movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And speaking of John Wick,
Speaking of John Wick,
that, ladies and gentlemen and people, is what we're here for. Is Juan
yeah,
Wick.
Juan Wick, the Mexican assassin. That could be another one actually.
I,
Could be
I
another
would watch
branch.
that.
Yeah, that'd
I
be
would
pretty
watch
good.
that.
Uh, yeah, I think did we see the first one at the same? I don't remember. It's been such a long time.
I know. Time just blurs
Yeah,
all together, especially with a franchise like this. It's like it kind of blurs together.
yeah,
And like, I mean, same thing with like the Marvel movies. It's like, and I'm notorious for not remembering who I've seen movies with. I will be watching a
yeah.
movie with somebody at home, turn to the person next to me and be like, "Hey, did you ever see this?" And
And
they
they're like,
saw it with
no.
me in the theaters.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. And I think so. This movie came out, the first one came out in 2014.
Wow.
I know, right? And I think about that and I'm like, I vaguely remember not wanting to see this in theaters because it felt generic. You know what I mean? Like it
Yeah.
didn't feel different. And it was only until after it had come out that people were like, "Oh, this is really good. This is really, really good." And I'm like, "All right, I got to check it out." You know what I mean?
I was in the same boat. I was like, "Oh, okay, like this is like generic Matrix." Like
Yeah, or like
they took,
Crank. It reminded me a lot of
yes.
Crank. If you remember
Yeah.
Crank with Jason Statham, like I was like, okay, this is just like more tamed, or I thought it was. Well, Crank is pretty unhinged, to be honest
Yeah.
with you. But I mean,
Yeah.
I thought
Yeah.
it was like maybe more tamed Crank. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I mean, here we are, the fourth movie.
Yeah,
So let's get into it. Typically, I think we've started with the things that we liked.
yeah.
So let's start with that.
You want me to start? You gonna start? I'm gonna start.
I'll start.
Okay, you started off. You
I
started off.
brought this upon us, so I'll
All right,
start.
fair enough. Fair enough.
First thing I liked was seeing different places around the world. It was just
Mhm.
cool seeing like the different types of assassins and the different like types of hotels. I wanted to see more, but like what we got was pretty cool. The Japanese like continental,
Was awesome.
that was super cool.
That was awesome. That was really awesome. Yeah.
All those like Japanese assassin guys were super cool, like the sumo wrestlers and all that. It was fun. It was cool. It kind of it gives like those old school martial art movie vibes. So like I enjoyed like that aspect. And then to divert slightly away, um, like you get to see like different aspects of this world, and so they introduced a new character, the Tracker. And so
Yes.
I kind of I throw that in the category of like new people, new places. This is a new type of character that I don't think we've seen before in the other movies. And if
No.
we have, I forgot, but I did enjoy his presence and like what his dynamic brought to the movie.
Yeah, I also had put down that I really like the settings. I think the settings of these John Wick movies are probably the highlight because it feels like they never run out of creative ways to put John Wick in these fight scenarios. I mean, there's a scene in the movie where he's fighting in a club, and I think John Wick 2, I want to say 2, whichever one had Ruby Rose in it. I think that's John Wick 2. Had a similar scene where he's fighting in a club, but the way this one was done felt so different, right? Like literally, I think that club was like a more European club. This one was more like a Romanian type of. I think it was like Germany or Berlin or something like that. Belgium, or
Germany, yeah,
something
yeah,
like that, right? So I don't know. It was just a different vibe. It was pretty cool to see like it's still a club, but it felt different. I did take a little issue with like man straight up assassinating people on the dance floor and people are just still dancing. I'm like, no one's stopping. No one's gonna get
yeah,
out of the way. I mean, I'm out the door if I see someone get headshotted at a club. I'm out the door. That's it for me. That's it for my night. Um, but I also put the settings. I mean, like going to France, that was awesome. I mean, even the beginning of the movie started like in the desert of like,
yeah.
I don't know, some like
I think it was
Arabic country.
Jordan. Yeah,
Yeah, okay, yeah. I was like, whoa, like I mean, just where they film these movies is always impressive. So I think that's always going to be the best part. That and they do the locations homage, right? It's not like like when movies like I don't know, it's like a meme. Like whenever they show a movie in like South America or like Mexico, and it's in this like sepia tone or something, like
Mm-hmm.
they do it justice, and it doesn't feel typical, right? If that makes any sense.
Yeah,
So
like
I like that a lot.
stereotypical. Yeah,
Stereotypical, yeah, yeah,
yeah. And then to continue with that, like the location's super cool.
yeah.
There's not a whole lot of plot to these movies, so like you need something to supplement that. So locations helps. To me, another thing is some of the supporting cast
Mm.
really, really help carry these movies. And this one, Bill Skarsgård. I mean, the Skarsgård family. It's kind of
I mean,
ridiculous how talented they all are.
just a super talented family. It's crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and is it Bill? Bill's in this one,
Bill.
right?
It's Bill Sarsgaard who played the clown from It.
Pennywise. Yeah, so I was
Pennywise,
gonna.
yeah.
If people aren't aware, like that is Pennywise the clown.
Mm-hmm.
So he is perfect for playing a villain and like an unhinged, scary villain. Oh, I would love to see him in a good guy role one day, but he does good with the villains. Lance Riddick, R.I.P.
R.I.P.
He
That was even sadder.
Yeah.
I was like, yo, this is crazy because he really died.
Right, and
Yeah.
so his death scene was. Well, I'll get into that later, but like his presence in these movies added the sort of like classiness and like gravitas to the films.
Professionalism.
Yeah, he has like a regalness to him, really.
Yeah.
I could have seen him in like a different movie playing like a king or something. Like he just
RP.
has like a strong presence, and
yeah. And I just
what a
want
sad
to
loss.
I just want to take a second to say, like, I'm a huge Destiny player. Losing Commander Zavala is a heartbreaking thing. So heartbreaking. I've been hearing this man speak to me through my headsets for almost 10 years. It's just wild to think about. So really
Yeah,
sad. Really sad.
yeah, gone way too soon.
Way too
And
soon.
in hindsight, I'm curious if they would have handled that a little bit differently.
Yeah, I think they would have,
Like in
honestly.
some sort of like reshoots, post production type of thing. But
Because it happened the week of
the premiere,
the premiere thing. I think it happened like the
wow,
week of, so not a lot
yeah,
of time to change anything.
right.
Yeah.
So yeah, real sad loss for that. But his presence in these movies added a lot for me, especially.
Yeah.
Donnie Yen's in this one. I always love seeing him.
The legend,
Yeah.
Donnie Yen. Yes.
If people don't know, go see
Go
Ip
see
Man,
Hitman.
IP
Yeah. Yeah.
Man. It's based loosely off of the man who trained Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
And it's really cool.
It's
He also
awesome.
played the blind force user guy in Rogue One.
Yes, he did.
So yeah, seeing him in this again, playing a blind guy again was interesting, but
It
I love
was
seeing him.
different. It was a different type of blind guy. And I guess we could just talk about it real quick. Like, his blindness wasn't in Rogue One, it's like a devout person who, even though was born with this affliction, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right. This one, he willingly gave up his eyes. So
Yeah.
he used to be able to see and gave up his eyes. And I think that was part of the stuff. Like, I think one of the likes about this movie that I put down is I love the way John Wick does lore. It is not done there's a lot of subtlety with the way,
Yeah, the show don't
you know what
tell.
I mean? Yeah. The show don't tell, like a lot of subtlety with the way they do lore building. And I feel like that's what's going to make the other spinoffs work. You know what I mean? Because we always get just morsels of the bigger picture. And so, like, one of the things I love is that when he's talking to Mr. Nobody, and he's basically telling him, like, Mr. Nobody's like, oh, you chose to be blind. And he's like, yeah, that's the price. That's the price that I paid. And that's a small price in comparison. Like, that is something so simple and so subtle, but yet so profound, right? How can you be an assassin and be blind? That should tell you how lethal he is as an assassin.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's crazy. So I love that. I love Donnie Yen in this role. It was awesome.
And like with his performance in this, I don't know if I'm right about this, but his combat style reminded me of like the drunken
Yes.
fight style.
Yes.
And
I said the
wonder
same
if
thing.
that's what they were going for.
I said the same thing. It's very unpredictable, and I think that's the intention, right? Because he's blind. He cannot size you up, so he has to throw you off by almost like the calculated throwing of his body. You know what I mean? He's not Daredevil, where he can hear things, basically see without being able to see. And I thought that was clever, because he has to constantly engage in close quarters combat. Like he has no choice. So yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, and like speaking of the close quarters combat, like these movies thrive on choreography, like fight choreography, and
Mm-hmm.
stunt performers.
Mm-hmm.
These movies really give those people a chance to shine, and it's just a good reminder that like a lot of the action movies we enjoy, talking to you MCU, would not be possible without stunt performers.
Oh yeah.
And this is me getting on my soapbox saying like they need more appreciation, because a lot of Hollywood actors that play like these big action heroes would be nothing without the people who actually perform the stunts. And that's also to give credit to somebody like Keanu Reeves, who like puts in the training um, to take on a role like this. Like he does the firearms training, he does the combat training, and I heard recently how he's actually had to increase the hours of training on this movie, because
Yeah.
he's like 50 years old, and
Yeah.
like they were like, yeah, like he needs to train more because like he's getting older.
Well, I think Keanu knows this. He gifted his stuntmen Rolexes.
Oh yeah.
That said like I think it said like the John Wick 5 or something like that, which is pretty
Oh
cool.
wow.
Yeah, so he gifted them Rolexes, which is pretty dope. I mean, I think he knows that what you just said, and I think he really appreciates it, because some of these scenes, I also put down one of my likes with the choreography. Choreography is crazy. It's crazy in this movie. There's a scene near the end where Senor Wick is fighting upstairs, and then he gets to the top of these infamous stairs. It's like 1,000 stairs or 1,000 steps.
Yeah.
I can't even do 1,000 steps on a stepmaster, let alone while fighting for my damn life, right? So he goes up and then he gets kicked all the way down. I was like, listen, if that was me, I am laying there. I am accepting my death at this moment. It's over for me. There's no point. I'm not going to get back up. I can't. I don't have the energy. I was exhausted for him. I'm like,
Yeah.
there's no way. There's no way. My fat ass is on the ground just accepting my fate. There's no way. Yeah,
Two,
it's exhausting.
two things about that scene. One, I would love to see the behind the scenes. I'm curious, like, what portion of it Keanu did. Like, if they were just like, all right, the last 3 steps you're on.
Right.
Like, there's no way he did
No.
think even half of that scene. And
Painful.
if he did even like an eighth of it, props to him, because that's scary.
Yeah.
But, like, I also I was trying not to laugh because it reminded me of that scene from I'm blanking on the movie with Andy Samberg.
Oh,
Hot Rod.
Hot Rod. Yeah.
He's falling down the mountain. That's what came to mind, and I like started laughing. I was like, "What is wrong with me?"
Yeah. That, I mean, I laughed. I laughed not because it was like funny, and I think that's what it was going for, honestly. But it was just like, no, there's no way. Like it's like I spent the last 6 hours running and fighting. There's no way. Like there's no way. It's it. Like that's it for me. Like I'm not
Yeah,
gonna make it. Just put a bullet in me now. Like it's over.
it's
I do have to note, by the way, we can get into our dislikes. I do have to note that you were talking about earlier when we started that you forget often when who you've watched these movies with. And I think I've watched each John Wick with a different person, but I do remember explicitly I've watched the first one with my wife, Daniela. And so she didn't watch 2 or 3. And so you should have seen the look on her face in the beginning of the movie when they're fighting and they're using the Kevlar jackets. She was like, what is happening? She was like, how are they doing that? I'm like, oh yeah, no, that's Kevlar. She was like, because
yeah.
they're like Wonder Woman, like the bullets, like deflecting with their arms and stuff. And she was like, are they superheroes? Like, what did I miss between these two movies?
No, that's a good point, because I saw this one with Wendy, and I totally blanked on this, that she hasn't seen any of them, and
Oh
so
wow.
like a few minutes into the movie, she's like, "Are their suits bulletproof?" And I was like, "Yeah, about that."
I had to explain that to Daniela as well. I was like, yeah, it's Kevlar. I'm like, they're not superheroes.
And like the other thing is like these movies are brutal,
Yeah.
and Wendy is very squeamish.
Squeamish. Oh
So
man.
like I felt so bad. But you know what? She did it. Like she
Hey,
made it through the movie. But yeah,
that scene when
forgot.
Akira is climbing the steps, stabbing that dude. I was like, sheesh, that is graphic.
Oh yes.
Yeah, that was like that's pretty graphic. That's pretty graphic.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
So
let's transition
dislikes.
into let's transition to things we didn't like. I think we just have to call it what it is. The plot, man, is just like
There isn't one.
look, man, look,
It's
I
like a
get
video
it.
game.
It's like a video game. Like I get it. Like I'm not trying to shit on them. I get it. You know what I mean? Like it is what it is. But the plot, it makes no sense. It makes no sense. I don't understand if he's supposed to be excommunicado. There's only so much you can do before you just have to either say, forget it, just let him live his life, or, send the whole army. And also, these people don't know who he is. Like, if I'm an assassin, right? I'm a young budding assassin. I see John Wick's name on a sheet. I'm like, F that.
Yeah.
F that. Like, that is absolutely not.
Calling in sick that day.
There is no amount of money. And also the money. Like, yo, if you really want someone to take this seriously, you got to put up some big bucks. We got to get into the hundreds.
Yeah.
Maybe,
good point.
Maybe yeah, I mean, we got to get up there in the price.
Like you could make more money like joining the NFL or something.
Like, you got to give me more of a reason. I mean, 25 million to die. I mean, nah, absolutely not. I'm not dying. I need to see my wife tomorrow. Like, there's no, like, I'll just do like a 10K contract and call it a night. Like that's fine for me. If I see John Wick's name, I'm saying F that noise. There's no way. Homie was fighting at the roundabout in France for like 7 hours. And, I mean, at some point, you just gotta say, it's just not in the cards. Like, I'm not gonna get there. You know what I mean?
I'd be like, you know what? Roundabouts are confusing. I got lost. Like, I couldn't find them. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, think about the context of being like, I'm in my car. I hear the radio. They're telling me where he is, and I drive there to see this man without doors in a car, Tokyo drifting, picking up a gun. I'm driving away. Josh, I'm not getting involved. This is a different type of fight. I'm not equipped.
Yeah.
I'm not equipped.
Yeah. Well, and that kind of like leads me into the other thing that I disliked. And you talked about this earlier, where when they're at that weird German dance club,
yeah,
everyone's kind of just doing their own thing, and like there's literally battle axes being embedded in people's heads.
Yeah,
and everyone's just like dancing away. I don't know, like whatever drug they're on must be strong.
Well, it can't be them because even when they were in France and they're fighting in the roundabout, I'm like, why aren't cars stopping?
Yeah, right.
Stop. Like, Josh, the amount of traffic would be astronomical. There would be people stopping when they see a man getting hit by a car, getting up, and then start shooting somebody else. I would stop my car. At the bare minimum, I would just say, you know what? Let's let this play out. I'm just stay over here.
My own business, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, come on, man, that's crazy. The plot's ridiculous. Plot's ridiculous.
Right. Well, and then like the other thing, like attached to that, like, do people in the rest of the world know about this stuff happening? Because again, like they're all acting like normal, like they just drive on by or keep dancing. Whereas like in the first few movies, they were like super, like all the assassins were being like super secretive. They literally blow up a building in New York City in this one.
Okay,
that city that historically has a rather bad reputation. I
said the same thing. I was like,
blown up.
Oh my God. I said the same thing. I was like, oh, that's a little weird.
Well, and then later on they show the continental New York and like it's roped off, but there's nobody there.
Yeah. I was like,
there's no police, there's no civilians, no reporters. I was like, yo, if this happened in New York, people would lose their minds.
That's a good point because they don't know what this building is.
Right. So
you know what I mean? They don't even know what this is. So it just blows up.
Yeah. And then
no one asks questions. No one.
So, which tells me either one, like that part of the story, like they didn't put too much thought into, or the rest of the world, like kind of just turns a blind eye. But for some reason, the other movies, they were all being hush hush about it. I don't know. That part.
Well, yeah. That segues me into the second biggest issue I have with this movie is the plot armor. And I feel I don't mind plot armor. Sometimes it's just, not everything can be Game of Thrones. I get it. Like sometimes you just need a little bit of luck, and that's fine. However, we are now technically 5 movies in, right? Because the movie Nobody, I think, is part of the John Wick universe.
Is it really? I was wondering about that.
I'm pretty sure it
I
is.
haven't seen that movie.
He's not directly here, but I think he's part of the same.
He's like part of the assassin world.
Yeah.
I was wondering about that when that movie came out, and then also because the tracker in this movie calls himself Nobody.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, like, is that supposed to be like a link between the two?
Yeah, I don't know.
Which is cool. Like,
and that's cool. You know what I mean? But I think like, okay, so and they're gonna make more. Bella de Armas, I believe, is gonna be the ballerina, which is another John Wick universe movie. So I get it. Like you, it's fine. It's not a big deal. Whatever. But then I'm like, okay, well, we're 4 movies in, 5 movies in, whatever, and like it just so happened there's this super obscure rule where you can like challenge this person to like fight. And in my mind, I'm like, why are we hearing about this now? Why now? Why wasn't this the de facto move from the second movie? Like this would have been the first thing I saw, not losing my finger in the process. Like,
right.
I mean, that's crazy. Like that's the amount of plot armor in these movies are just like, okay, I get it. You're trying to like build up to something. But it just always kind of seems like the first one I did such a good job, I think, because the story was kind of relatable. Like it wasn't a complex story. It was very relatable. And he was a boogeyman. And at this point, he's virtual mythical at this point. You know what I mean? Like he's
got like the unkillable cheat code on right now.
Yeah, it's essentially. I mean, he got hit by a car. He got shot in the chest and in the shoulder and
he
the
fell
gut.
out of a building from like the 3rd floor.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I mean, this at the bare minimum, this man is concussed. This man at the bare minimum, he is fighting through a concussion through like the second half of the movie. So the plot armor, it gets a little ridiculous in this movie specifically. What about you? Was there anything else before my last one?
Yeah, I had one that was attached to what you were just saying, and I have a goldfish brain, so I totally forgot what I was about to say.
Then I'll tell you my last one. Maybe I'll drop it. My last one was I honestly I felt like some of the fight scenes went too long.
100%.
I felt like some of the fight scenes, I'm like, oh my God, we're still here. Like,
yes.
How many? And it goes back to the thing I'm saying. I was like, at some point, some of these people have to be like, let me stop. Let me just not engage, because it's the definition of insanity, right? You do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. I'm like, I would just stop. I would just go home. Like, I lost him. I don't know what happened to him. At least I'm here to fight another day. Why are people still running up to this man, number one, and doing it solo? Yeah. That's the part that kills me, Josh. Solo? You just saw this man assassinate people, and you were like, I got this. Like, there's no amount of confidence in this world that would, after seeing a litany of dead bodies in a room, that would make me go, I got this. There's no way. There's no way. Oh, God.
Yeah, it takes you out of it. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. You were saying how the first movie is a lot more relatable, and it totally is. I was explaining to Wendy really quickly the plot of the first movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, like it's really sad. Like, you can feel for him. And then as the movie progresses, you're like, oh, this is kind of his fault now. Like, I don't feel as bad. And then by the time we get to this one, I'm like, this is just a bunch of rich people like shooting each other and blowing things up. Because if you think about it, the amount of money it takes to own all those weapons, to have all the ammunition, all those, like, there's billions of dollars flying around in this movie. And so I was like, yeah, I don't really care. Like, not my problem.
Well, and I also think that at this point, one of the parts that I did enjoy a lot, in my opinion, was Akira. I thought her character was great. Super cool character. And she made a very, I'm paraphrasing here, but she made a point that's saying that it's not fair that you break the rules and are trying to avoid the consequence. And it's a very poignant point that I think lasts throughout the whole movie, that she's right. It's not fair. Like, he did break the rules. Like, you can argue he had a justified reason to, but it doesn't change the fact that their whole world order is structured by rules, and he broke them and willingly is actively trying to escape the responsibility of breaking those rules, which I agree with her. It's not fair. A lot of people have died as the consequence of his actions, in this John Wick world. And what is he fighting for at this point in the movie? It is kind of selfish at this point. Like, the first one, we understood, hey man, that's my dog. And that's my dog that belonged to my wife. That's the only connection I had with her. You know what I mean? Like, we understood. This one, I'm like, bro, you got to give it up. It's over. Like, you got to give it up, man. Like, what else are you fighting for? You know?
No, 100%. And like, we're in the fourth movie, so it's like why are we here at this point?
Right.
And that goes into my last dislike. This movie was way too long. It was almost 3 hours.
Way too long.
And granted, like, when they introduced the idea of the duel, the plot picks up a little bit. So like, it helped me to re-engage. The first part of the movie was cool, but like, it was hard for me. It was hard for me to engage.
The second act took way too long.
Right.
The second act took way too long.
And it's like, dude, like, no responsible adult has this much time to kill to go see, like, and it's not just this movie. Like, there's like so many movies out right now. Like, I don't have time to see all these. Like, it's shorten them.
It is tough. It is tough.
We talked about this with Creed. Like, concise storytelling pays off, and it creates something good.
Yeah, so it's more enjoyable, especially when, I mean, like I said, the fight scene in France, I'm like, damn, bro, like, we're still here. We're still in the streets. Like, bro, take an Uber, bro. Like, what is this? Like, just come on, man. Like, this is crazy.
Yeah. Least favorite scene?
Least favorite scene. Oh, yeah, I did write that down. Least favorite scene was
so for me,
what was your least favorite
scene? Shimazu's death. Or Shimazu.
Yeah.
Because the actor's name is escaping me right now. But like, he's one of those ones. I don't even Hiroyuki Sanada.
Yeah.
He's one of those actors where it's like, I really like him, but I can't remember the name off my top of my head. And so it's like, Hollywood, like, let's use him a little bit more so he becomes like a name you just know.
Yeah.
And so like, his death, it kind of felt pointless. It's like, dude, you lost the fight.
It wasn't pointless. It wasn't pointless.
And I was hoping, because like, as it was happening, I was like, I bet you AJ could explain this to me.
I'm gonna defend the point. So prior to this scene, Winston was brought before, well, I forgot what they call Bill Skarsgård's character. Prior to the scene, they brought him there, and the Bill Skarsgård's character kills not Winston, but
the concierge.
The concierge kills him, and Akira is his concierge. So the reason he committed suicide, it is kind of deeply rooted in like Japanese culture of like that honorable suicide thing, is that he knew that he couldn't live and they both stay alive. So if that doesn't make sense, like he knew, like them both staying alive, they would just chase them as much as they chased John.
So if he dies, his daughter lives.
If he dies, they'll leave his daughter alone. Okay. So that's what he meant when he said. That's when he meant that he says, like, I'm saving her. I'm trying to save her life. That's what he meant by that.
Okay, because like, I was like, that's what my first thought was. I was like, we don't have any reason to believe that's going to be the case. Bill Skarsgård is unhinged.
Well, we do, because again, at that point, the hotel had been condemned, and so they're officially enemies of this assassin world. You see what I'm saying? So like, the option is they run away. Maybe they get away for, I mean, how long before somebody comes after them, or he takes the hit and he dies and they leave her alone.
I guess. So
you know what I mean?
It's like very much honor bound. It's like, hey, if like one of us dies, but like, I don't know. To me, I was like, we have no promise that it's gonna happen.
It was definitely clunky, and it definitely wasn't delivered well, because I had to think about that for a while too. But yes, I'm gonna defend that scene and say that was its function. I think the scene that I didn't like, honestly, was the last scene. Um, I just thought it was stupid. Like
Which last scene are we talking about?
the last well the last I guess two scenes, the scene, the duel.
Okay.
I agree with the random henchman. I don't understand why he would let a blind man in a duel with John Wick.
You don't know.
Like, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Why? Like, I get it. He's a great assassin, but he also can't see.
Right.
So that's really weird. The whole thing when, hey, spoiler alert. I mean, if you're this far into it, spoiler
God
alert.
bless you, but
Yeah, God bless. But yeah, spoiler alert. The last scene, John Wick debates Bill Skarsgård's character by faking shooting. But I when that happened, I'm like, he didn't shoot the bullet.
oh yeah,
So
100%.
so then out of eagerness to be the person that takes down John Wick, he takes the gun to shoot John Wick, and John Wick is now able to shoot him because he's in quote unquote contest. And that's how John Wick kills him. I'm like, whoa, what? I was like, that's stupid. That is stupid.
Yeah, and like that's also the scene where it's like I guess I could defend that because Clancy Brown's character, who has like an amazing voice, he tells Bill Skarsgård earlier, he's like, yo, like you are too full of yourself and it's gonna catch up to you. And like that last scene was supposed to be the payoff of it.
Clancy Brown. Yeah.
And I was like, all right, I guess. I was like super sloppy from not to have noticed that. But I mean, technically they foreshadowed it where he was like, sir, like you need to calm down.
Fair enough. I was just like, okay.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, he's not dead.
You don't think so?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. What better way to be left alone than the whole world thinking you're dead? He's not dead. There's no way.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
He's not, because he knows if he. And did you take my advice? Did you stay to the absolute last credit?
I did. Okay, perfect. I did.
Perfect, because I think that's what they're transitioning to, a different series.
Okay,
and I think for those who may not have stayed to the absolute last credit, Donnie Yen killed. Donnie Yen's character kills.
Shimazu, the hotel manager.
The hotel manager, yes. Akira's father. And he basically tells her before she tries to fight him, he's like, hey, just let it go. And then he's like, you'll find me, whatever. And so at the end of the movie, his whole motivation is that the table is essentially holding his daughter hostage virtually by essentially saying, like, if you don't do what we say, your daughter dies. And so, him and John Wick work together to get him absolved, just like John. So he no longer has to be part of the table. So at the end of the movie, at the very last credit, he is finally able to greet his daughter in safety. But we see Akira show up out of nowhere. And I feel like whatever movie they're making with those characters, that's going to be like the very first scene we see. So, it's supposed to show that, like, just because you're not being hunted doesn't mean someone isn't hunting you. And I think that's the difference. That's the difference between those two characters, that this is a lesson John Wick had to learn. That's a lesson he doesn't, Donnie Yen's character doesn't know yet. You know what I mean? He doesn't know this. And so I feel like that's what that's supposed to show. That's why I don't think John Wick is truly dead, but it serves him a purpose for everyone to think he is. You know what I mean?
Okay. And yeah, I guess like with that, it's a lesson Akira's gonna have to learn that John Wick broke the rules, and that's why everything just went crazy. And like part of like the rules is like you keep killing people, eventually someone's gonna come kill you.
Someone's gonna come after you. Yeah, like, revenge. It's a cycle. Revenge is a cycle, right?
100%. And like she's gonna learn that. She's gonna go kill Donnie Yen, and something's gonna.
I don't think she's gonna kill him. Okay, tinfoil hat time. You guys know I'm doing
let's
this.
Go.
I think what's gonna happen is that they're gonna fight. The daughter is gonna see that and be totally freaked out and wanting nothing to do with him. And I think what's going to happen is there's gonna be a Last of Us Mandalorian dad surrogate child situation going on here, where he, out of maybe obligation, because when you really think about it, it's not his fault he killed his dad.
100% no.
It's not his fault. Like I told you, if it wasn't,
he's following the rules.
He's following the rules, and if it wasn't him, somebody else was going to do it. So it's something she can't see in that moment because it's
Okay.
been one day since
Yeah.
everything has happened, so she can't see this in the moment. But the reality is, someone was going to kill him, and it was only going to be a matter of time.
Yeah.
And he let him go. That's the other thing. He didn't want to do. He let him go. I
True.
mean,
True.
so it's
True.
something that she's gonna have to process, and I think it's what's gonna happen. I think why I don't necessarily think that he's gonna die is because number one, he's blind and older, right? But two, specifically, like she's inexperienced. I think that's what you were supposed to pick up
Oh
from
yeah.
their
Yeah.
fight scene, that she's not as experienced as the other ones because she's like what 20 something, like she's really
Yeah.
young.
She's
Yeah,
young.
she's super young, so she's not as experienced. I think there's going to be like, all right, you know what, for whatever reason, I don't know what stupid reason they'll come up with, but he is either going to have to work with her or train her in some kind of way.
And she's gonna kill
And
the table.
maybe, well, that's what I think these greater movies are
It's
going
all gonna
to,
lead up
yeah,
to, yeah.
lead up to, because I think what they showed is that, and I think that's the one nice thing that this movie did before we jump into what we liked and final thoughts, is that I think this movie kind of, yeah, Clancy Brown's character, who I agree was great. I can't remember his character's name though. I said Winston, but that's not the right name. But his character basically insinuated that if John wins, you're going to make him a martyr, and that's going to make things much more difficult in the future. And I think what that means is the assassins are going to realize we are the actual arms and legs of the table. Why do we need the table? You know what I mean? And I think that's going to play into a lot of the plots going forward, that these people are just going to say, why do we need the table to broker our own contracts? Like we don't need them. You know, we could do it ourselves. So I think there's a lot more, you know, down the
Okay.
pipeline. Yeah.
Just to throw a wrench into that, what if she kills the daughter and then tells Johnny Yen to go live his life?
Ooh,
Like she told
man.
her.
That'd be cold blooded. That'd be
Yeah.
cold blooded. But hey, we'll see.
Who knows?
We'll find
Who
out.
knows?
Yeah. What was your
scene?
favorite scene? What was your favorite scene?
My favorite scene, hands down, was the abandoned house in Paris.
Okay, that was mine.
where
That's why I asked you.
it's this overhead continuous shot of John Wick just tearing through people, and I'm not sure if it was shot in one take or if it was edited to look that way. Either way, I'm a huge fan of continuous shots and kind of unconventional like cinematography. Like this isn't a scene you would normally see.
No.
And the other thing I really liked was because it at least feels like one take. It doesn't rely on like a lot of the movie magic you typically would see, where like the camera's shaking, it's super zoomed in, everything's moving fast. Like the performers had to like really train and perform well to make this look good.
Yeah.
And it pays off. It's such a cool scene.
I'm glad you said that. That was my favorite scene in the whole movie. It reminded me a lot of Hotline Miami, for anyone who's ever played that game, where it's top down and then you shoot, you know, you're shooting things. It was really cool. Really well shot scene. You know, there's one thing you got to give these people credit for is action cinematography. Like that's their bread and butter. Okay. That's their bread and butter. There may have been too much of it,
Yeah.
but the ones that stuck out were really, truly amazing. And I thought that scene was by far the best scene in the whole film. The third act was great. It was just took a long time to get there. So.
Yeah, getting there. I felt like I was John Wick, where I was like, yo, I'm tired.
Exhaustion. Yeah. So yeah, what are your final thoughts, Josh?
Final thoughts. You know, same thing as the other John Wick movies. Like a lot of cool action scenes. There's not much of a story, but like if you like an action movie, you're gonna enjoy this. If you like the other John Wick movies, you're gonna enjoy this. So go give it a watch, and then put on your tinfoil hat and let us know if you agree with AJ and I about where things are gonna go in the future for the John Wick verse.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a lot like in the vein of like how the Creed 3 is just like, if you like Rocky movies, you'll like this. If you don't like Rocky movies, this probably won't sway you. Same thing. If you like the John Wick movies, you'll love this. If they were never your thing, then this is just going to probably bore you. But they're fun, and they are rewatchable, as surprisingly. Maybe fast forward a little bit, but rewatchable at the bare minimum, because the fight scenes are a lot of fun. So yeah, I mean, guys, you know, let us know. But yeah, that's the end of our show. Okay, well, that's the end of our show. Thank you guys for listening. If you like what you heard, let us know. You can follow us on any social media platform at the Bandwagon Fan Podcast. That's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and even YouTube. You can also find our podcast on anywhere you listen to podcasts, like Apple, Stitcher, Google, anywhere where there's a podcast, you can find us. Thank you guys for listening. See you next time. The Bandwagon Fan Podcast is hosted by Josh Jimenez, Alex Magosa, and me, AJ Soy. Our show is produced by Kate Smith and edited by your boy, AJ. Our social media is managed by Natalia Kokulia, and our theme song, Lush Waves, is provided to us by Taylor Lewin of _audio. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.